Hi Sharks! Today we're going to be talking about the commutative property of multiplication, and we're also going to be multiplying by 0 and 1. These will be two lessons combined. You'll have one of your lessons that you will do on Monday through Cami, and then you'll have another Cami lesson on Tuesday. But the video will be both of those ideas combined. So we're going to start with the commutative property of multiplication. And whenever I think of the word property, I think of maybe ownership, you owning something, or property outside your house, your yard. But in this case, it means a rule. And the commutative property of multiplication states that I can change the order of the factors in a multiplication problem and I would still get the same product. So just to review, my two numbers that I'm multiplying together, they're called factors. Remember my trick? Two factories produce products, and that would be your answer in your multiplication sentence. So I'm going to show a picture to match this. So remember, I always read this 8 groups of 2. So I'm going to write that. So I have 8 groups, and I'm going to put 2 in each group. Okay, so if I were to skip count by 2s, I would get 16, and I could also count 8 2 times to get 16 to answer that. Now the commutative property states if I change the order, if I put 2 as the first factor and 8 as the second factor, I would get the same product of 16. So let's see if that's right. Now this is going to change how my picture looks because I want to think of the first number as being the number of groups, 2 groups of 8. So let's write that. So now I have 2 groups of 8 and I'm going to put 8 dots in each. And I'm thinking here with adding them together, 8 plus 8 still would equal 16. So that is the commutative property. We just proved it here. Anytime you're multiplying 2 numbers, you can change the order of the factors and still get the same product. So let's practice one more together. And on your paper, what you're going to notice, you're going to see 2 multiplication sentences, and you'll have to look at the picture and then match that. So let's practice another one. So you may see 3 times 4, and maybe you see that represented as 3 groups of 4. And go ahead and figure out that product. 12. Now the commutative property states that I would just switch the order of the factors and I would still get the product of 12. So let's try that again. Now I have 4 groups of 3. My 4 groups. I put 3 in each. If I were to skip count that, 3, 6, 9, and 12. I still get the same product. So for today's lessons, you'll see a lot of problems with blank spaces like this, and you will then change your order to prove that the commutative property works. So if you would have 2 groups of 6, you then would change the order at the second one, okay? So the next thing you're going to be learning and that you're going to be working on Tuesday is multiplying by 0 and 1. So let's work on that. So we're going to start something new in this video, and you will have this then for Tuesday's work. So now we'll practice multiplying by 0 and 1. So we're going to have 0 as a factor and 1 as a factor. So let's think of how we would read this. This would mean 0 groups of 2. Well, if you don't have any groups, you're not able to multiply, are you? No. So your answer is always 0. Anytime you have 0 as a factor, your answer is going to be 0. So if we would reverse this, I have 2 nests with 0 birds. How many birds do I have? I don't have any, okay, because I have no birds. So you can think of it either way, and it would still equal 0. So any problem, as long as if you have 0 as a factor, the answer is always 0 because you have nothing of that to multiply. Okay. Now let's try multiplying by 1. So when you multiply by 1, you have 1 as a factor. And you can think of this in two different ways, and we'll use the commutative property to help us. So this means one group of 7. So let's put that in. One group of 7. So how many total do we have? 7. So we could think of it as one nest, 7 birds in each. Okay, and then I can change the order of the factors. Now my picture is going to look a little different, and I'm going to read this differently, but I'm probably going to get the same product. Let's try. Now I have 7 groups with 1 in each group. And so that would equal 7. So whenever you multiply any number by 1, the answer is always going to be that opposite number, okay? So even if we had a really big problem of 4,000, I'm just making a random one up, 326 times 1, we have, in this case, this many groups, 4,326 groups with 1 in each. So your answer is going to be 4,326. Could you imagine drawing all of those? If I change the order of those, now I have one group with 4,326 birds in it, and your answer is going to still be that same number. The opposite number of 1 is going to be your product. Okay? So 2 new rules now to think about. Whenever you're multiplying by 0, and 0 is one of your factors, the product is going to be 0. Whenever you're multiplying by 1, the product is going to be that other number, the opposite number of 1. Okay, sharks, so today you'll work on your CAMI for 3.6, which is the commutative property. And then for Tuesday, you won't have a second video. You'll be multiplying by 0 and 1. Don't forget the rules that you learned. You can change the order of the factors and still get the same product. That's the commutative property of multiplication. And whenever you're multiplying by 0, the answer is always 0. And whenever you're multiplying by 1, the answer is going to be that opposite number, the number opposite of 1. All right, sharks, if you have any questions, you can message me in Schoology. Bye.